What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 8 tips for wide receivers to be good and talented DBs. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it can teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you want to know the specific things you should do on a day-to-day basis in the gym and on the field, check out that very first link in the description below for our 8-week wide receiver ultimate workout plan. What you'll get access to is over 500 plus wide receiver drills and gym exercises you can do mapped out with sets, reps on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. So check out that very first link below if you're interested, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now, first router we're looking at is Jamar Chase versus Chidobe Awuzie from the Bengals. Now, very talented DB. I think like PFF had him ranked extremely high last season. So one of the main things when you're going up against a talented DB, I'm not trying to get you guys ready for a DB who's a scrub. I want to get you guys ready for a DB who's patient, who knows what he's doing. And one of the first things that you always have to remember is releases are about reacting. So let's play this full speed. So Jamar Chase comes, he attacks this DB's leverage, but he takes the inside release and runs this out route. So obviously there's a little bit of an unconventional way to do so. When you're running an out route, normally what you would like to do is take an outside release. So pre-snap, we come up to the line. We see that this DB's lined up inside shade. So the thought process should be, okay, I'm going to attack his leverage. I'm going to square him up. I'm going to try to get him to move to the inside off his platform. By threatening him to the inside, take the outside release and break it off. And he has plenty of space to be able to do so. So that should be my thought process off the line. Anytime that you come up to the line, whether it's against a scrub DB or a talented DB, you should always have a plan. Now, you also want to have something I call a reactionary plan. So when Jamar Chase goes at him, you see how this DB doesn't keep his leverage to the inside. Chidobe doesn't shoot to the inside like a lot of DBs would. His sole responsibility when playing inside shade is to protect the inside. But sometimes that DB might do that. He might just sit where he is. Maybe he keeps the leverage to a different direction. But as a receiver, I always have to be ready to react, especially when it is a talented guy. So he goes up, he tries to square him up, he attacks his midline, but he sees that this DB's given him pretty much the inside release. So he's going to take it. He's not going to force the release. If that DB's trying to take away the outside and you force the release, he's going to get hands and squeeze you to that sideline, especially if he's talented. Against talented guys, you have to take what they give you, but sometimes it's about reacting off of that. So when he takes what he gives him, he takes the inside release. Now, as a receiver, you need to be comfortable taking an inside release or an outside release on any given route. Unless it's like a must outside or a must inside release play concept, but on a specific route and they don't give you the must inside release or outside, you got to be comfortable either way. Because this situation could happen. A DB could take it away, and we got to have a plan to react. So he takes the inside release. So on an out route, when you take an inside release, normally we're used to doing this when they show us outside shade press. So we take this inside release. What should be my main goal, obviously? Stack. My main goal should be able to stack over the top, get him trailing my back hip. So I give him a move, I give him a rocker step, I give him a jab inside, whatever. Something to get me separation. So that's what Jamar Chase does. He gets over the top, he gives a fake inside. And the whole reason this is set up, the whole reason we're able to beat a disciplined DB is because we were prepared to react off the line. It's not the top of the route. Like the top of the route got him separation, but that didn't make this play. The release made this play. The release gave him the free release inside to where he could get to that top of the route position to get space. Top of the route should be easy work, fellas, as long as we're prepared for it. Now you might ask me, well, okay, that sounds great and all, but what if this DB, what if I'm not able to restack him? What if he's all over me? What if he's right on my inside hip? Well, you got to have a plan for that as well. A lot of this receiver stuff you have to rep out constantly over and over again. So when we're in a live game scenario, it's a reaction. It's an instinct. So if that DB's running with you, what do you think you would want to do? You'd want to take maybe your left hand and swat him by on his shoulder, on his hip, and slip under him if he's playing it well. Again, it's about reacting and having a plan, but making sure we have that reactionary plan. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. That's a great job by Chase, taking what the DB gives him, taking the inside release on an outside breaking route. So first thing that's going to help you beat talented DBs, fellas, is going to be having a plan and being able to have a reactionary plan. So now, the second thing I want to talk about here to beat talented DBs. We're going to look at a lot of clips today from Jair Alexander. In my opinion, the best DB in the league, by far, matched up with the best guys every single week. Now, this is a practice clip of Devonte Adams. Obviously, we all know who Devonte Adams is. We know how talented he is. So these are best on best going at each other. So how we beat a talented DB is by fully committing to the move or the release or whatever I am trying to do. And I'll explain what I mean by fully committing. So let's play this full speed. So Adams does this thing we call a dive release. So a dive release is exactly exactly how it sounds. It's where you're diving to the inside to try to get the DB to move off his platform. So I love this release when you have head up press or maybe inside shade press, but we're trying to take an outside release with this. So when you do a dive release, or let's not even talk about dive release, talk about any release, any kind of press situation, where is a DB supposed to be looking? Hips, right? So when you're doing a move, you see how Alexander, where's he supposed to be watching? His eyes actually do get a little bit high right here. But to get his eyes to be high or to get him to be undisciplined, we have to sell the route. My idea shouldn't be, oh, well, if he plays it well, he's going to be in the right spot. No, I'm going to make him play it bad. I'm going to move him off that platform because of what I'm doing with my release. And so that's what I mean by committing to it. So when Adams does this dive release, essentially, it's 3 steps on a 45-degree angle inside, and then we put the brakes on and slip back outside. So in this case, it would be left foot, stepping with the left, step right, braking off the left to get back outside. So that's the first step. That's 1, 2, 3. Now, when he takes that third step, I want you to pay very close attention to his hips and his shoulders. They are fully committed to the inside. When a DB is trying to read your body language, you have to fully commit with every release that you're doing. It's no different than like, let's say you're running like a post route and the DB's in off coverage. If you're running up to that post route and then right before the break point, you start to turn your body and then you make that cut, he's all over that break. But if you're running that post route and you stay committed and then bam, you put your foot in the ground, that can get you space. So same thing off the line. Against a disciplined guy, against a guy who knows what he is doing, you have to make sure that we are committed. Now, on this dive release for those 3 steps that he takes, you also have to make sure that you're fast. You have to make sure that what you're doing is full speed. You're not slowing things down. You are not taking choppy steps. You are fully committed with your pad level, fully committed with your speed, and fully committed with your stride. You have to commit if you want to get separation off the line against a disciplined and talented DB. Like I said, not trying to get you ready for a scrub. A scrub, you could probably just give a move inside and then go. This is something for talented DBs. Let's play this thing again full speed. So second thing that's going to help you get open against talented guys, against a good DB, is committing to your moves. Okay, so now, this is a second example here. This is Amari Cooper going up against Jair Alexander, and he's going to be running a comeback route. So main thing I want you to understand, especially when you're going up against a talented DB in zone coverage, is you have to understand spacing and you have to understand where you're at on the field. That can help you win a lot of route situations just by understanding where the quarterback wants to put the ball, where he should be putting the ball, and how you can get open. So let's play this full speed. So this is kind of like maybe he showed press and he's bailing, maybe like pre-snap, he's just bailing right out of there. But it's probably like cover 3, for example, but it's completely zone. So Amari Cooper, when he runs this comeback route, he does a great job of attacking inside shoulder first, then going to blind spot, not going straight to the blind spot. So this is where a lot of wide receivers go wrong, and against a talented DB, you're going to get punked when you do this. So a lot of guys think that anytime that it is zone, you want to try to attack this blind spot. Right? So this area behind the DB, when it's zone, obviously, his eyes are to the quarterback. He's kind of more so squared up to the QB. Obviously, when his eyes are to the inside, he's got that blind spot. So everybody thinks no matter what route it is, you want to attack his blind spot. That's not the case. You want to attack it. The same coverage rules still apply. So if this was off man coverage and he was outside shade, what is he trying to do? Right? Just think about it in man coverage, because that's easier to understand. He's trying to force you where? Inside, because he probably has safety help. That's the only reason he's outside shade. So just because it's zone doesn't mean that changes. He still has the same leverage, so the way I structure my route does not change. So he's outside leverage. I know that he's trying to force me inside. So if I have to run an outside breaking route, like an out route, a comeback route, you guys who are familiar with this channel should know this. If I have to run a 10-yard out and this DB's outside shade, what do? I want to attack his outside shoulder, his inside shoulder to try to get him to flip his hips, and I slip back underneath. The same thing applies even when it's zone, fellas. People just get anxious because it's zone. So what a lot of guys would do is instead of going at the inside shoulder first, then going blind spot, they would just go straight blind spot. But he's outside leverage for a reason, not to let anybody get outside. So if you just go straight and attack his leverage when you have an outside route, what do you think the DB is going to do? He's going to widen, and you're going to run that comeback route right into him. And you're not going to have any space to accelerate. When you have an out route and you have a comeback, that extra part of the route that matters. The quarterback needs to throw you open. You need to create space for the QB. So you have to make sure that you give him space. And that comes from your stem. Like I said, understanding spacing is the main key when you're going up against a talented DB in zone. So you see how I attack an inside shoulder, getting the DB to open up and flip. Then we get to the blind spot where he doesn't see me. But since I didn't run there right away, he couldn't keep his leverage. I got him to open up and run because he was attacking the inside shoulder, then worked to blind spot, then he snapped it off. So now we have plenty of space to accelerate. If he runs this route and he's maybe 2 yards over here, there's not enough space. QB won't be able to lead you, and that DB will be able to react, and that's an impossible throw. But because we set him up with the stem first, we knew how to use my space correctly. That's what got us open on this. That's textbook route there from Amari Cooper. So no, fellas, third thing against talented DBs, you have to make sure we know how to use space. Let's play this again full speed. Great job attacking inside shoulder, then going blind spot, and then being able to snap this thing off. So now, another example here against Jair Alexander. So this is going to be a double move. I have no idea why. It's probably cover 2, I would assume, why he's outside shade press with a split this wide from the receiver, because, like, why wouldn't you go inside? The only reason he's way far out wide is because maybe he's trying to go inside. But maybe they saw something on film. He ends up running a sluggo. I just think it would have been a tougher look for Cooper if he would have been inside shade. But let's play at full speed. So fourth thing, you have to make sure when we are doing a double move that we run the first route first. I know that sounds like basic advice, but when you're running an out and up, when you're running a sluggo, that first route that you, like the first part of that break, you have to run that first. You cannot change a thing about it. So let's play at full speed. So Cooper goes here, and he runs this like kind of 5-yard in, and then he breaks this thing back outside. So I would call it a sluggo. I'm sure they have a different terminology for it, but this is textbook in terms of you running the route. So when he goes here running the first route, I should say, when he pushes up to the depth, see how he drops his hips, when he breaks down that 90 degrees running full speed, his eyes are to the inside, and just like that dive release, he's running hard, hips and shoulders are committed. So, fellas, if you're going up against a talented guy and they're calling a double move route, like where you're running like a hitch and go, maybe like it's against a talented safety and you have to run like a corner post, run the first route first. Do not change a single thing. If this was just a 5-yard in or a quick slant, whatever they're running here, it should look the exact same frame by frame to when you're running the slant. Not only will that get the DB more anxious to bite in game, but he's seen that stuff on film before. He's seen you run that slant over and over and over again, so you have to make it look the same. And now when he bursts to the inside here, again, like I said, he's got speed, he's fully committed, and he's able to put the brakes on a dime. And that can get him separation. And all we need, fellas, against a talented DB is a step or two. That is a gift when we are facing a guy talented, especially if you're facing a guy like Jair Alexander. So make sure, fourth thing on double moves, fellas, run the actual route first. Do not change things. Because guys, what they'll do is they'll come off here, they'll run this like slant and go, and those 3 steps down the slant or the 5-yard in, whatever, they'll be choppy steps. They won't gain any ground. Maybe they're not running, maybe they're not pumping their arms, maybe they're not driving off of their cut leg, but they'll chop the steps. They'll slow themselves down. Or worse, right before they get to this break point, that left hip and that left shoulder start turning upfield. They start to give it away, and that's the biggest indicator you can give a DB. So make sure we run the route first. We run the first route first. Let's play this thing again, full speed. Great job by Cooper breaking inside, keeping speed, keeping stride, and committing that pad level to get Alexander to bite. And then obviously a monster play after the catch to score that TD. All right, so now, fifth thing I want to talk about when facing a talented DB. Again, another Jair Alexander clip. Like I said, I think this guy's one of the, like, if not the best, one of the top 3 best in the game right now. And I think it goes to show, week in and week out, matched up with the best guys. And you see it on film. The best route runners in the game have to go up against him. And he does a pretty dang good job. So when you're playing a talented DB, one of the things, we talk a lot about route running. We're talking about how to get separation. But also, you got to be able to finish the play. Because chances are, a good DB, you're not going to have that much separation. Like we were talking about in that clip with Cooper. You may be a yard or 2 yards is a gift against a talented guy who knows how to recover properly, who has good footwork. So let's play this clip full speed and we'll explain what I'm talking about here. So this is Julio Jones catching this like deep fade over the top, and he has a great example of late hands and putting the ball away. So when that ball is thrown over the top and you got a guy right on your hip, the key is being late with your hands, because a talented DB is going to try to play your hands. So when that ball's in the air and he sees your hands start to go up, he's going to try to play him. Hands go up, he's trying to play your hands and knock the ball out. But if we are late with my hands, he doesn't have time to react. So that's something that you should work on as a wide receiver. So if you're, like let's say you do a lot of routes versus air work. Like let's say, you get with a quarterback, you guys go routes versus air. You should be, anytime he throws you a ball over the shoulder or over the top, it's a fade ball, you should try to be late with your hands. Don't show your hands early. Wait till that last second. Trust those eyes. Watch it to your hands. So when we catch it, that DB doesn't have time to play my hands. We don't want to give him time. So many wide receivers will run, and they'll run with their hands out. They'll run with their hands up in the air, and the DB knows exactly where to put his hands now. So be late with those hands and trust your eyes, because when you're running up against a good DB, you're not going to have that much separation. Now, when he secures it, another thing that you have to be mindful of, being able to finish the play, is when you secure that ball, a good DB will try to play this thing on the way down. So you catch it, especially if it's a jump ball, especially if it's like a back shoulder, on the way down, the DB will try to knock it out. Still the PBU for him, and that's what they're taught to do. Play the hands, and on the way down, do whatever you can to knock that ball out. So when I secure this thing, I have to make sure that I'm violent to the tuck. I am ripping it away from the DB, and I'm putting it away as quickly as possible. Because when you catch it, you secure it, we rip it. We're violent to the tuck. Some guys like to turn. Some guys will almost turn and put their body between the defender and the ball. That's not wrong. Just make sure we go up, we make sure we're late with my hands, and we make sure we put the ball away violently. Let's watch the thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Julio getting separation. Again, I show you this, fellas, because against talented guys, we're not going to have that much space, but we still have to be able to finish. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, going up against a talented DB. And now, again, and it's funny sometimes when, I make stuff like this about a good DB, or I'll just post a route, right, an NFL route. And guys will be like, oh, well, that DB sucks. Like, he's not that good, all this, all that, the third. If you're in the NFL and you're matched up against one of the top wide receivers on the other team, you're pretty dang good, because they're not going to put a scrub out there. You wouldn't be getting paid to play football if you weren't disciplined, if you weren't good. And I guarantee you, any single one of these NFL guys would lock up 90% of high school wide receivers, because they're in the NFL for a reason, guys. So just understand that, and when you be very careful what you refer to as a good DB. So this DB, I don't actually know who is guarding Devonte Adams here, but you can anticipate that he's probably pretty good. They wouldn't put their third DB on the depth chart on the best wide receiver in the game. So when you're going up against, that brings me to this point. When you're going up against a talented DB who knows what he's doing, who knows what you like to do, you have to be very creative in your approach to how you would run routes. So let's play this clip from Devonte Adams quick. So he does his hesitation move into a diamond release. So I call that a hezzy diamond release. So a diamond release, everybody should be pretty familiar with. If you're not, I'm going to explain it. If you are, it should be review. So when you have a DB who's inside shade and you have to run a slant, what you would do is you'd take 3 hard steps on a 45-degree angle to try to get this DB to open up the gate, as we call it, or open up his hips, run to the fade, and then we put the brakes on the third step, and you slip underneath. It's a way to self-fade, right? It's a way to make this DB think you're trying to run past him so his hips open up and we can win underneath. Only on a slant, though, because it takes a little while for anything else. So what Adams does such a great job of is pairing his releases together to make himself look similar. So if any of you have even watched the Green Bay Packers play over the past few years, watched the Raiders this past week, you've seen Devonte Adams do that little hezzy and then takes off to the outside. He's patient. Usually the DB sits inside because he's expecting a crossover to a slant, and he'll just go run the fade. That's all he will do. And it works time and time again. And DBs knows it's coming. But he does a great job of pairing things together. He has 3 separate ways to run a slant. He has 3 separate ways to run a fade, but they all look somewhat similar. So when he hesitates like this DB's probably seen it on film. He's trying to be disciplined, watching his hips. Look how square he stays. He stays so patient. And then when he bursts up to the outside, that's when this DB opens the gate. Honestly, I don't blame him, because he has no choice. He has no choice but to open up if I do my job as a wide receiver and sell it and make it look the same off the line. DBs are playing a guessing game. They like to act like they know what they're doing. They like to act like they know the play call. They don't. We know what the play call is, and it's my job to make everything look the same. So when he does this move, he hesitates. It's the same tempo. He goes from 0 to 100. And those 3 steps to the outside, you see how he's running in full stride, running in full speed. Hips and shoulders are committed, just like what we were talking about earlier. And what does that DB do? Opens the gate. He did such a great job staying square, staying patient, but as soon as he accelerated, and because he committed to it, that got him to bite. But again, it's more than just selling fade when you're going up against a talented DB. Because against a bad DB, like let's say you're a high school guy, you're going up against a DB who's not very good, you could probably just take 3 steps. You could go right, left, right at the outside shoulder. He'll open up and we could slip back underneath and win. But against a talented guy, you do that, and that's something that you've never done before, he'll probably sit to the inside and be patient. But against a good guy, against a good DB who knows his stuff, who watches film, you got to pair that stuff together. Let's make it look like a fade even more. Let's make it look like I'm doing my famous hesitation move and then 3 steps outside to get that DB to open up. That's textbook right there from Devonte Adams. So one main tip that you guys have to remember out of all these in this video, make sure we're pairing things together. I think this is the most important thing when going up against a good DB and coming up with your plan. Let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by Adams being patient, taking those 3 steps on that diamond, and getting the DB to flip his hips. Okay, so this next example here is from Justin Jefferson, again, against Jair Alexander. And I want to talk about how you guys can react. Because like the very first example we showed was how you can react when maybe you have to attack a DB. But now we're going to talk about how you can react when you're facing like a head-up press DB who's right in your face. Can you still react? Can you still get a read on him? And that's by doing something called a split release. So last thing I want to go over with you guys is in terms of just like press releases and what to do is that reaction off the split. So play at full speed. So he does a split release. Jair Alexander keeps the inside shade, and he's able to run a dig route. So let's talk about it. We got press coverage, head up. He does something we call a split release. So a split release is when you take this front foot and you go out and you bring your back foot up even with your front foot. So it's even and out. With the left foot, it's even, right foot, it's out. So when we get to that position, that is a position of balance. That is where you want to be when you're facing head-up press. Not shaded inside press, not shaded outside press, head-up press. This is my favorite release to use. Not the only one you could use, but it's one of my favorites to use. So when you do this split release, you go here, you freeze. Now, this whole entire time, this very quick, and it happens back to back. It happens bang, bang. You're ready to go. You have to be, and you have to have done this a bunch of times before, fellas, to get comfortable. You can't just pull this out of your ass first play of a game and you've never done it because it's going to feel really awkward. It's going to feel really forced. You have to rep this out constantly. So we go here, we hit this split release, trying to get a read on the DB. So where's he going to shade? I'm gathering info. He shades to the inside. Okay, cool. Because I split my feet and I'm in a balanced position, I can drive off of my right foot and just get up into the route and take what he gives me to the outside. So it brings me back. It's a good tie-in to finish you guys off here with this video with the very first thing we talked about. You attack the DB, we're gathering info, we're reading how he reacts. Even when it's pressed right up on the line, releases are about reacting. Everybody asks, how can I get off the jam against a talented DB? He's a good DB, he's faster than me, he's stronger than me. You got to make sure that you have your technique down. You're ready to react. You know how to set him up leverage-wise. So same thing. Let's go back to the very beginning. What if we do this split release, but the DB shades outside? Because you brought your back foot up even with the front foot, you're in a good base with a knee bend, you're in a good pad level position. This is a position of balance, like I said. So you could push off of the left foot and take the inside release if needed. When it comes to press releases, it's about being able to react. React to where he goes, go where he's not. Take the free release. Top of the route is where our separation comes, but we have to get to this balance spot. That's textbook right there from Justin Jefferson. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job splitting, holding the DB inside, and then using that rocker step to win on that dig. I actually want to go over one more thing too, fellas. I saw this clip was thrown in at the end here of the montage when I was playing it again the first time, and I want to go over one more thing. I want to go over how when you have a patient DB who's maybe about 2 yards off, the best thing you could do is close the distance with him. So what do I mean by closing the distance? So I'm going to play this full speed. So this is a route. This is from the Super Bowl. This is not a route where Jamar Chase gets the ball thrown to him, but if he was running a fade or pretty much any other route, he would have been wide open. So let's play at full speed. So he closes space before he makes that crossover move. So you see how Chase going up against Jalen Ramsey, there's this 2 yard, maybe yard gap. They call that catch technique from a DB. Essentially, he's trying to catch us. So he wants us to think, oh, okay, he's off. I got to run a fade. I'm just going to go try to run around him so he can get hands and reroute us and be real physical. So as a wide receiver, I want to make sure that I close that cushion. I want to close that gap and make it essentially to where it's like pressed right up on the line because that's easier to get off. So what a lot of receivers will do, the mistake that they'll make is they'll go right here and they'll do a crossover move with this much space. Now, let's say, for example, we did a good fake. We got the DB to bite inside. You still have to get to here, though, whether you're running a fade or whether you're pushing up vertical, running a dig. So if there's that gap and he's jumped to the inside, he could still take a pretty good angle and get right back to your hip because we didn't close the space. We didn't step onto his toes. We didn't make him uncomfortable. So to beat a talented DB, you got to make that guy uncomfortable. You got to go at him. You got to close space, step on his toes. So that's what Chase does. He closes the distance. So now when he throws this crossover and we get the DB to jump, all we need really is him to hesitate. Now when I push back up vertical, you see how quick hip to hip. That's what I call that, getting skinny. Because now if he had to run a fade, he's gone. He's got him by a step. He was able to stack, and now when you stack him and you have him by a step, that's when you're open. So just know this, fellas, against a talented DB, the last thing I'll leave you with, make sure we are closing the gap. Make sure we close the distance if he's in catch technique. Close the space, turn it into press right on the line. Let's play at full speed. Great job by Chase using that little crossover move. Upper half fake was great on that release. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like a full wide receiver 2-month gym and on-field workout schedule with all the gym exercises and on-field drills wide receivers should do with sets, reps, and examples of each one, check out that very first link below. I'll see you guys next time.